Okay.
This painting, a couple of years before my father passed away, he and my mother went to England. And he came back and produced a lot of paintings that were shown in an exhibition at the Montclair Art Museum called In Search of Heroes. A lot of those works were based on English poems. This particular one is called What Leaf-Fringed Legend? And that is a quote from Keats's Ode on a Grecian Urn. And if you were to take that poem and hold it up and read it while you were looking at this painting, you would see that there's a lot of stuff in here that is also mentioned in the poem. One interesting thing about this painting is that my father wanted that phrase, what leaf-fringed legend, from the poem, translated into classical Greek, so we could put it into the painting. So here it is here. And the translator for that was my brother, who was studying classics at Princeton University at the time. So my dad asked him if he could translate that, the English, back into classical Greek, and my brother said it isn't completely accurate, but he did give it the best shot he could. This painting is also owned by the Nutley Museum and Historical Society. It's another nice late acrylic work of my dad's.
Go ahead,
Okay. This is a painting that's really kind of near and dear to my heart because it's called Studio Baroque. And what this shows is actually the interior of his studio in Nutley, New Jersey. In the foreground here is a big board with all kinds of pictures and things stuck on it that he was using to help create the composition that he was going to paint. Looking across the studio, in the background, we see my mom walking by the open door from the studio facing out to the street. It's kind of an interesting door, actually, because in the 1890s, an American artist named Frank Fowler, who established the Enclosure Artist Colony, built this studio. And he was a muralist. And as a result, that door, which is still there, is probably 10 feet high, because he had to have a door installed that would be big enough to take stuff through. And I remember when my dad was alive, he and I we couldn't just go to a store and buy a screen door to put on it, because it was way, way big. So I remember constructing a special screen door with my dad to fit it.
Wow, okay.
This is a late painting of my dad's called Artist's Odyssey. This was also a painting that appeared in the big show at the Montclair Art Museum a couple of years before he died. This is my father as he appeared later in his life, my mother, and a child. I don't know whether it's me or my brother. And there's all kinds of other symbolism in this painting. There's a woman in the back, some flowers, some fruit. I remember my father was proud that he was able to paint fruit in a plastic bag and make it look like a plastic bag. That was a challenge. So,
We have an eagle here.
yes.
Do we know why that's there? And
I
a
don't.
swan. A swan is also
Yeah.
superimposed on there. And
Yeah,
wow, I'll tell you,
I don't know. There's a lot going on.
there is a lot going on in that painting.
Yeah. So, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is one of the last paintings that my father did. It's a painting of him and my mother. It was completed very shortly before he died, very short time before he died. So much so that it actually is unsigned, which makes me think that at the time my father died, he was probably coming back, intending to come back and invest a little more touch-up or a little more work on it. But it's just a painting I find personally very moving because it's painting my parents, and it's just towards the very end of my dad's life.
What year is the painting?
1970? Oh, actually 1971, excuse me. So he died in June 1971.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah, it's a nice painting.
Okay, and we'll go onward now.
This is a painting a drawing from 1934. This is a drawing from 1934 that my father did of a young woman. My father studied drawing at the Slade School of Art in London. He liked to say that he sat there for 8 months with just a really sharp pencil, learning how to draw. They drew and they drew and they drew. This is an interesting drawing because there's no erasing, no correcting. was like one shot.
One shot.
Get it right or don't get it right.
Right, okay.
So it's a real demonstration of my father's remarkable skill as a draftsman.
Right. And what else do we have behind you there? Okay, good.
This is a drawing that my father did of my mother and brother in a country setting in about 1947. Again, it's nothing but pencil on paper, so it's another wonderful illustration of just what a great draftsman he was.
Right. And that was again 1947.
1947.
Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, this is a drawing of glass blowers that my father did during the WPA era. Again, fabulous, in my view, representation of human anatomy. One thing that's interesting about this drawing is if you look very closely, you see that there are lines, there are grids over it. And the reason why those were there were so that it could be enlarged onto a wall as a mural.
Right.
I don't believe this actually ever was a mural. I think it was just a study for one. But it also has to do with the fact that in the 1930s, my father, with his activities in the WPA, found old glass blowing facilities in Vineland, New Jersey, and put some of the glass blowers back to work who had been working there before and were out of work. So it's, there's a little bit of a human story to it as well.
Right. So here this was maybe, we don't know actually what it was maybe getting ready for with the lines to
Yeah.
put the squares up and a certain, you know, to do it in a large format type of deal here.
Yeah.
Okay, and how long has this been framed like this?
It's been framed like this since about 2 years ago.
Okay.
This is in a private collection.
Oh, all right, okay,
So
all
a
right.
collector who owns
So you
this.
had to do a little shopping around a little bit to put everything together.
Right, yeah.
Right, and everybody was only too happy probably to lend the paintings for this exhibit here.
Yeah, you know, people have been very lovely. Several collectors, several museums. I also wanted to mention that my father's works are in the collections of a lot of museums. They're at the Museum of the Rhode Island School of Design, Cornell University, the Princeton University Art Gallery, New Jersey State Museum in Trenton, the Montclair Art Museum, the Newark Museum, the Nutley Museum. Lots and lots of museums have things by my dad. So they aren't always on display because a lot of collections don't actually have room to
Display
show
everything,
they've
right,
got.
yeah. Okay.
So,
Now, you're going to be here at all, they're gonna have a gala or anything like that, or they already had that and you were here?
I was here for the opening of the
Oh, the
show.
opening, okay, so I don't know too much. So, come and see this, it's kinda nice,
Yeah,
and it's the little donation, I think, to get in, I think,
this is $3.
$3, and it's well worth it, okay? And as Roxanne said, the hours, I think.
Right. Yeah,
All
the
right, but-
hours are Wednesday through Saturday from 1 to 4,
All right.
but they're also going to be closed on a few Saturdays, like the 4th of July.
4th of July, yeah. Before we go, we want to talk a little bit about this photograph right here.
Yes. Okay.
When was this taken?
This was taken probably when my father was in his early 60s. There were two photographers who lived in Nutley, New Jersey, named Bob and Edith Worth, who lived up on North Road. And this particular photograph was taken by Edith Worth of my dad. He intended to use it as a kind of a professional shot of him in his studio.
Oh, okay. And you said this was done around in their 60s, I think, right? And the
Yeah.
painting behind it is, can you recognize it?
Yeah.
What? What's funny? What?
I was just saying to Roxanne, there are all these loose threads that I have to tie up. This is a painting of a string quartet that my father did in the 1960s. In the late 1960s, the graduating classes of two consecutive classes at Bloomfield High School each bought a painting of my dad's and gave it to Bloomfield High School as a senior class gift. That painting was acquired by a graduating class at Bloomfield High School and given to the school. For years, I've been meaning to go there and talk to somebody in the Board of Education and say, do you still have it? Where is it? Can I get a picture of it?
Right.
That's just the way it is. There are always loose threads when you're the son of an artist.
Okay. Now, his most active period was what, though?
He was active.
All the time?
All the time.
All the time?
Yeah. I mean, right up to the time he died in 1971, he literally was painting at his easel and he died very suddenly. Like two days later, he was dead and the painting he was working on was still on his easel. So that was a good thing because he loved
Painting, yeah.
painting, loved his work.
Yeah. Okay, well, I want to thank you for coming out today and talking to us about all this stuff we have here in the museum today, or I should say art gallery here. And thanks for coming up, and I hope everybody comes to see.
Yeah, I hope so too. It's a beautiful show, and again, I'm so thankful to
Roxanne, right,
to Roxanne
and her staff,
yes, totally.
the girls,
Exactly.
right.
For making this show possible.
Yeah.
Oh, let me just mention too, when the show ends here, it's going to be traveling to the Noyes Museum of Art in South Jersey, just north of Atlantic City. So
And do you know what town it would be in, or?
it's in Oceanville, New Jersey.
Okay, and when does that start?
Okay, I'm going to have to go over there and check.
Okay,
I apologize. Okay. It opens on, the exhibition opens on October 2nd and runs through January 17th
okay.
at the Noyes Museum in Oceanville.
All right, great. All right, thanks again.
Thank you.
Okay.
I
All right, guys, get closer together, and there you go. And what's up now?
Okay.
So we wanted to say thank you also to all our visitors that do come to the Clifton Arts Center, but I want to say thank you to Barry Lenson for bringing this beautiful exhibit to the Clifton Arts Center and throughout the surrounding towns. I hope you get a chance to come and visit us. We're here Wednesdays through Saturdays, 1 to 4 p.m.
Okay, and I just want to say thank you so much to Roxanne. It's been such a beautiful show and such a beautiful experience here in Clifton. Thanks.
Okay.